Hello and welcome back to Hilltop Stovetop, the show where we teach you how to make great meals in an ordinary kitchen. Today we're going to be making cinnamon buns. Now this is an extension of our previous video where we were making grandma's buns, and the grandma's buns we just did into plain dinner rolls. But we only used half of the dough. So this is the other half of the dough, and I will put the recipe for it in the description below, and I'll also put the link to the other video in the description below. But for now, we're going to take this half of a roll of dough and use that to make cinnamon buns. So this should be a fairly quick process. Normally this would be enough dough to make 24 dinner rolls, so we'll get a similar number of cinnamon buns out of the deal. And while I've been talking here, I have the two pans, and we've melted a little butter in the bottom of the pan there. So we'll be putting the buns into there. But we're going to start by giving this a little bit of a knead. And then we need to roll it so it's flat. And we've got our trusty rolling pin here. Maybe a little bit of flour on the outside. We don't want things sticking unnecessarily. And the farther out we can roll this, the more spirals we get into the bun. And this is the tricky part, is getting it to stay stretched out. Matter of fact, I might just change my tactics a little bit and pretend it's more like a pizza dough, at least to start with. Give it some stretches. Okay, so we've got this stretched out. I stretched it out by hand for quite a bit, and then once it was a little bit thinner, was able to use the rolling pin to get it to a little bit more reasonable level. It does want to spring back, so you just got to keep working at it. Now, the next thing we want to do is to be able to roll it up, but not have those rolls stick together. So I'm going to start with some butter. Just the same as we did with the regular dinner rolls, by coating things with butter, that keeps it from sticking together. And I'm just going to spread this on by hand. That to me is about the easiest way to do it. You could melt it first, but this is fairly soft butter. That's going to help spread out the dough again a little bit too by me spreading this around. Mind of its own then. And cocoa, no, you can't have any of this yet. Okay, there we go. So that was about 1/4 cup of butter spread out over this. Now I'm going to make sure that your hands are clean before you start this. Really, I did. Now we've got some cinnamon here. We're just going to sprinkle that generously over. It does get kind of yucky at this point. Some butter. No, we already have butter. I've got lots of butter here. A spoonful, and we want some sugar. It's brown sugar we're using, of course, and that makes it much more caramely. some raisins. Now this is optional. Some people don't like raisins on their cinnamon buns. Some people like them just sugar and cinnamon, and some people like it with a little bit of nuts. So I'll leave it up to your own personal taste, what you prefer. But this is just a little over a cup of raisins. And we had covered them with some boiling water to plump them up a little bit before we started. Now comes the part where we're going to roll this. And we're going to start by rolling and trying to get a little bit of a straight edge here. Okay, so we've got that all rolled up. I did have a chance to wash the guck off of my fingers, and I brought out a cutting board. Now, a couple of things that we've done here. This end here was wanting to pop open, so I'm just folding that one in so that we don't lose any filling. And this end is not so bad. And then all along the edges, we want to make sure we've got a good, that we kind of pinch the dough together so it's not unrolling as we go. I also stretched it out a little bit so that it's even diameter all the way along. And we're going to take this and we're going to cut it in half, keeping in mind that each one of these should be about 12 cinnamon buns. And that makes each one of these 6. Pretty basic math here. Having a serrated edge to your knife works better with this. So there's our first 12. Now we've got the pan that has a good layer of butter in the bottom, because with that, all the sugar in this is going to be quite sticky. So just the same as we did with the regular buns, we're going to split this up, 3 in the middle, and I usually start with the smaller ones in the middle. And then the remaining buns get distributed around the outside. And there we have them. So there's our first dozen buns, and I'll do the same with the other dozen. And then just the same as we did with the plain buns, we're going to just cover these with a tea towel and let them sit for an hour or so until they have at least doubled in volume. So we will see you in a few minutes. All right, so now our cinnamon buns are ready to pop into the oven. They have been rising for about an hour and a half now, and they've doubled in size. And a couple of these loose raisins that are on the top, I might just sort of move them out of the way because they could potentially burn, or I'll tuck them down a little bit further down in there. And I've got the oven preheated to 350 degrees, so we're going to pop those in for about 25 minutes. We'll check it at the 20-minute mark just to make sure that everything is going along fine. And we'll see you when they're ready to come out of the oven. Hi, and we're back after about 25 minutes of smelling this delicious stuff in the oven. So I think our cinnamon buns are about ready here. Let's have a quick look. Oh yes. There we go. Ooey gooey goodness. Turn off our oven here. Now, just the same as the other buns, the plain buns, we want to turn them onto a cooling rack, but it's a little different with this because there is that caramel that's inside there. So wish us luck that these are going to pop out nicely onto the rack without being all over the towel. Oh. And as I predicted, there is some ooey gooey goodness. And it is very hot. But there we go. So we're going to let that cool for a little bit. And you do have the option of icing it. But what I'm going to do is I've got some icing sugar here, and I'm just going to sprinkle it over the top. And there we go. So there we have our cinnamon buns made out of Grandma's buns. And like I said, if you want to see how to make that dough right from scratch, you can watch our previous episode, which there'll be a link to that in the description. And otherwise, I hope that you all enjoy this, and hopefully you've got somebody to help you eat them, because it is so tempting to just sit down and nibble away until there isn't any left. So thank you for joining us here on Hilltop Stovetop. Don't forget to like and subscribe, because there will be more delicious meals coming along, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye now.